Easy cheesy.
Nice.
You can smile, it's okay. It's not a mug shot, guys. Y'all having fun, man. Y'all know the motto.
Are we on yet?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know we were on. We're starting. Hey, everybody. And I would, before we start, I would remind everybody, if you have any questions, we'll go through this because this is a topic that gets a lot of yak. So if you have any questions, ask them on there. Stan and Jamil will keep track of them. In the last 10 minutes, we'll try to answer them. So, got Mr. Floyd here. We're going to discuss the most spoken about thing in the dog training world, especially if you go to protection dogs, and that's drives. And we're going to start out. Tony's got 30 years of experience with German Shepherds, so that nobody talks about drives more than German Shepherds.
Right.
So I'm going to give you a clinical definition of the term drives. Drives were introduced to us in '72 when the Schutzen people came over here.
Do you want to wait to start till people are in there, or
Do what, Stan?
do you want to wait to start till people are in there, or you just want to go till people are in the live, or you just want to go?
I thought we'd just go with it. We want to just chatter and deal in?
Well, I just asked a question.
What do you think, Tony? You want to wait till people are looking so nobody's listening right now?
It's up to you guys.
We got 2 people now.
Hey, 2 people.
How y'all doing?
There's 3.
Stan put us on hold. We're going to wait for some people to get in. From now on, folks, we're going to try and starting before 7 so y'all can get on.
Get on at 7.
What do you think, Tony?
There we go. Speak up, guys.
Dude, no.
Huh?
Speak up. Oh, we're using the road battery, bro?
Yep.
Huh?
Yeah, it's dead.
This is still Texas.
All right, folks, we're going to speak up a little bit louder. Hope y'all can get through it. If you can't hear us, let us know. We'll save this for a better time when we can be heard. Stan's going to try and charge that mic. So let's go back to it. We're going to get on with the show here.
Go backwards. Give us the clinical definition, like I said, you're trying to.
All right. A drive is an innate, hold on. An involuntary physical response to a specific stimulus used for the procreation of a species. In other words, the example I like to use on that, because that's a whole bunch of fancy words that I mumbled anyway. The example I like to give is this. In other words, there's only one reaction that you can't help. It's physical. The dog cannot help. If you hit prey drive, he's got to go forward, right? And that's going to be what he's going to do without thinking and without being able to refuse if you turn the prey drive. So it's kind of like if you and I went to the beach and we saw some really good looking chick in a little bitty old fawn bikini and she's winking at us and, rolling, shaking and wiggling, there would be a physical response, right?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, period. But if you and I went to the beach and we saw in a thong bikini an 800-pound gorilla, would we have the same response?
No.
No.
We probably had the opposite response.
We would have the opposite response. So you see, that good-looking redhead always gets a response we don't think about, we can't control, and we can't help. That's a drive. So, what do you think about all the people using drives to train dogs? And I know sex drive is not part of that deal, but I just bring that as an example.
To a degree it is, because you have some dogs that don't have that, believe it or not.
Okay.
But and it's hard for me to really just comment because it's a frustrating topic. And I know you probably experienced it also. But you have
We're on the phone mic here.
you have a lot of trainers, especially in the United States, that use different words, make up words, just say a lot of things that aren't true.
You said that, not me, folks.
I mean, I'm just gonna tell the truth.
Right.
If I can, you give me a few minutes to do it.
Go.
And that's where all of the other terms or other terms that they use for drives come from. You know, you can sit up and have a conversation with somebody that claims to be a trainer, and it'll blow your mind. They'll talk about what the dog has toy drive, you know,
I haven't heard that one.
or the dog has hunt drive, or the dog has, you name it, you know, jump off a tree drive. I mean, whatever it is that they feel like they can get a dog to do, they try to give a name to it.
Right.
But no matter what name you give to anything, it all comes back to the, you know, basic two drives, and that's prey drive and defense.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, that's it. I think a lot of people that evaluate, like you get the Schützen, Schützen's not around anymore, so I can beat up on them, okay?
Well, it's still around.
It's still around.
They change his name every 5 years. Go ahead.
You get, let's call it the general sport people, and
Right.
I'm not knocking sport people, let me be clear, I'm just saying that's what they do. You get them and they're used to a breed that they train for that sport. They're not necessarily a dog trainer, they're a sport Malinois, sport shepherd, okay? So you bring them a Cane Corso, and they say, well, that dog has no prey drive. Well, it's got prey drive, they just don't know how to bring it out.
Right.
And I think that's usually the case with a lot of the dogs that supposedly don't have it.
That's true, and a lot of people make mistakes. Like one of the things, and this is the drive I'm sure you heard of, the business unit.
Is what?
Fight drive. Have you ever heard
Oh
of
Lord, have I
fight
heard of
drive?
fight drive.
Okay.
Yes.
And fight drive kind of goes back, well, it doesn't go back to anything, but the only thing that relates to fight drive would be defense drive, and how a dog responds in his defense drive. And while we're talking about that, one of the biggest things that frustrates me when we're talking about defense drive
Right,
and prey drive as it pertains to protection
right.
is when people see a dog that's happy when he's doing protection work. A lot of novices, a lot of inexperienced people, and even some people that are just on ego trips,
Right.
will look at a dog like that and be like, they'll say, oh, he's doing everything in prey drive, he wouldn't stand up on the streets.
Right. Great point.
You know, that dog that's doing everything in defense drive, when he gets pressed, he's gonna run.
Yep.
So, and I know you remember me calling you a couple of nights because I was having an intense conversation about that particular topic.
Yes, I did.
And I called you to get a good explanation so I could relay it in better words than I was giving to the people I was on the phone with. But talk about that for a minute, Butch, that the way people view training and protection, how we use both to train, prey drive and defense.
Thank you. And you're right, that's one of the most frustrating things about dealing with these trainers. Tony will, I'm sure, remember this. I definitely do. When I first started dealing with the Schützen trainers, the German trainers we respected so much, it was all about balance.
Right.
Tony remembers it. You have prey drive and defense drive. Each one brings a certain thing to the table. You use both. But you really want a good, confident dog. There's where the prey drive came in. The only system we had in America at that time that I was familiar with, and I worked at the super secret Barksdale Secret Air Base in Bossier City, Louisiana, with some of their guard dogs when I was a teenager. That's where I first started catching dogs. And all we had to do was tie them up to a short leash. You torment the hell out of them until they came out and bit,
Right.
or they squatted and peed and you failed.
Right.
Because like Tony said, in defense, you got two choices, fight or flight. What the Germans figured out was in prey drive, it's totally a locomotive move forward drive, right?
Correct.
I can chase a rabbit, I know I can grab it.
Right.
Don't have to bite him hard, but I'm gonna take a big old full mouth because I don't want him to escape. In defense, you have a problem because they could take flight. And I think defense got unpopular in this country because so many people didn't know how to push the dog properly and they pushed him into flight.
Right. Right.
So now it's all prey drive, all prey drive. And what the Germans want you to do is balance. You work prey drive, you get it up, then you bring the defense drive up, it's a seesaw. Because each drive gives you a special, unique quality. Prey drive is confidence, and the dogs want to bite full mouth and prance around with the sleeve or the rabbit or the body part in their mouth.
Right.
Defense, that's about Afro.
Yeah.
I mean, this dog, he loves to do the bite work. He's a competitor. That's something that I look for in a dog. Afro likes to compete. He's happy when he goes and does the bite work, but Tony's trained him, he's balanced. So when he hears a command, yeah, he's happy going out to do it, but he is balanced with enough defense that he bites hard like hell yeah. So that's what it's all about, is that balance, and I want a happy dog.
And I want a happy dog too, and I go back to Bush trained a dog for me, Halo. Remember Halo?
Oh yeah.
And that's a heck of a
I
dog.
remember all your dogs.
Yeah. And Bush trained him from start. All my protection work was done with Bush. And give an update on Halo. He's in Arkansas right now. Let me tell you what he's done. He's tracked down a lost child. He's tracked down a lost animal.
Wow.
Yeah. And then just this past weekend, he stopped some intruders on the property and held the intruders to the police.
Wow.
That's what Halo did. Yeah.
Quality.
Quality. And I say that about Halo because I showed video of protection work of Halo working with Stan.
Mm.
And one guy commented on the video and said that, you know, all his work is in prey drive. You know, he'd never be suitable for street work or patrol work.
Oh.
And I was like, man.
Oh no.
I told that guy, I said, you don't know what a good dog is. Because the one thing about that dog is he had no fear.
Right.
And he was trained correctly.
Right.
And when you train a dog correctly and he has good temperament, he will display characteristics of not having fear.
Right.
When you train a dog in defense, just like you said, defense only, which a lot of people like to do.
Yep.
You have a dog that's very vocal.
Right.
You have a dog that's very, and let me make sure I said reactive to his environment.
Yeah. Good point.
And that's not a dog to be trusted
No.
around
No.
your family, around your children. People think that it's cool that everywhere you take the dog, he's barking at somebody. You know, that's not what you want. That's not what you're looking for. You know, those same dogs are destructive. Those same dogs, you just can't take them. They can't be a part of your day-to-day world because they don't have the ability to be that.
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing about the balance that you speak of. You want to train them in prey drive so they understand that.
Yep.
And a good trainer such as yourself, you'll see the prey, you'll see the stress, and then you'll switch it. You know, to prey drive from defense, you'll switch it back to prey.
Right.
You know, and then and you're monitoring the bite. You're monitoring how is he biting. You're monitoring how is he doing. Is he wagging? You're monitoring so many things as we're training these dogs. And these are things that people don't really understand.
Exactly.
When you only train and pray, you're teaching your dog to have a bad bite. And a good bite, bad, that's not the biggest thing in the world when it comes to protection work.
Yep.
But that's something that some of us look for.
Right.
The second thing that you're doing is you're really teaching your dog that some point in time, I'm gonna have to get out of here. And while you're talking to your friend, the dog looking for an exit. The other thing you're teaching your dog, excuse me for what I'm about to say.
Right.
You're teaching your dog that you ain't to be trusted. Believe it or not. Now, what I was taught when I first came into the German Shepherd world, what I was taught is take care of your dog, take care of your puppy.
Okay.
If you take care of this puppy, when the puppy gets old enough, he'll take care of you.
Good.
You have to be your dog's back door so that he can become your back door. But what happens is, when I allow my 8-month-old puppy to be stressed to the point that he really can't handle it, which some bad 8-month-old puppies out there, but you know, most 8-month-old puppies can't.
Right.
And you taught him that, you know, if I just kind of ease over to this corner, I don't have to experience that stress. Or if I just don't go out far enough, I don't have to experience the stress.
Right.
It's just like when we don't want to go to work, we find an excuse. The puppy will find an excuse. Or the dog, as it gets older, will find an excuse.
Good point.
Yeah, so when you're training, just like Bush said earlier, you know, you got your 2 drives that you're particularly training in, which is prey and defense. And with that, you have to have the balance that you spoke of.
Right. And as long as you balance it, because remember, folks, and for all you people who are buying a dog trained by a sport trainer, it's working nothing but prey drive. When you get on the street, whether it's you or your dog, and you all of a sudden face a real life threat, your whole system switches over, adrenaline kicks in, you know, dogs, the hair on the back of their back stands up and down their spine, the hair on the back of our necks stands up, and we're in a whole different mindset. And in that mindset, you can take a dog who's been to every Seeger show, every SV show, every Schutzen. He's not a Schutzen 3. You can take a dog who's a Schutzen 99 with V plus for courage.
Right.
And all of a sudden, he faces somebody who's going to kick his ass or a gorilla. And remember, when he shifted to defense, that adrenaline and that different hormone kicks in, he has 2 choices. Right, Tony?
Exactly.
Which one is he going to take? He ain't practiced nothing but prey drive.
If he's only practicing in prey drive, and this is the sad part about it, he might not take it either. He might just run up to the gorilla and try to lick him.
I ain't talking about that.
You know,
They my friend, right?
I mean, you never really know because they don't understand the situation.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy may be wielding a gun, the dog. I don't know what it is. He never seen it. The guy may be yelling and screaming. I'm like, hey, you guys were partying or something? Because he's never seen it. And that's what, you know, even when you're doing a lot of, you know, IPO training or sport training, depending on what sport it is,
Right.
it's not a lot of, you know, active yelling. It's not a lot of situational training.
Right.
It's more routine training, if that makes sense to you.
Sure.
That's why I say
Sure.
the dog might
It's a
just,
pattern.
yeah, dog might just run into him and lick him. You never know.
That's right.
I mean, dog might just lay there and watch you get your butt whooped. You know what I'm saying? We don't know. And he might run up and try to, you know, nip at him a little bit, but it's not going to be something to really stop a person from
Right.
advancing on you. And that's why you do protection training.
Right.
But, you know, bringing it back to the drives that we train in, they tell you if you're going to do the IPO or if you're going to do Schutzen back in the day or whatnot, the biggest thing they ask you to look for in a puppy is a puppy with intense prey drive.
Oh, yeah.
So you want that puppy that's going to chase that ball. You want the puppy that's going to, you know, chase anything. You walk around and want to go grab your pant leg. That's prey drive.
Right.
And they're looking for a real heavy dose of that in these puppies because it makes it easier for them to train and prey. And that's the difference between what some trainers do and what other trainers do. But it's really easier to get a dog to follow the routine if you have them in prey drive. Now coming back to what we were talking about earlier, you're walking down that dark alley and you got a dog that's been properly trained in both, then you have a dog that's going to exhibit a nice amount of courage and stand by your side.
Right.
Good, bad, win or lose, the dog be there.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for out of your dog.
Yeah. You know, to me, I think if you and don't get me wrong, there's guys who do sport who also train tough dogs.
Exactly.
Neither one of us are saying that, but the majority don't. So the main thing that I feel is that when you're training and putting enough defense in, enough times, you know, we make it a threat to the dogs, and the dogs that are really good, like Halo, they're in defense. They kick into defense, and their defense, I believe dogs are as competitive as any human athlete, as any racehorse, and that once someone fights back, you can see it come out of them. I'm gonna win. Which is a whole other thing. But I really believe that's a factor, and it's a great factor in the dogs that are properly trained given that opportunity.
Right.
So, do you have any questions coming in, Stan, by the way?
Mhm.
Let's try to get one of that.
Can a defensive dog be a good family dog?
No. No.
Agreed. Why is that, Tom?
All right, well, I'm going to be devil's advocate.
Okay?
So aren't mastiffs technically considered a defensive dog? And don't they also make good family dog? Corsos in particular?
Excellent point, Stan. So fine point on the man's question. Dogs with a defensive nature can make great family dogs. Dogs trained in defense. Tony, take it over.
There you go.
Dogs trained, when you reinforce the defensive nature of a dog, those trying to reinforce it, it makes them bad family dogs. And even when you're studying, and I'm gonna be honest with everybody out there that's watching, when you talk about any defensive dog, 'cause we talking about breeds now. When you say mastiffs or cane corsos, or yeah, the breed as a whole may be defensive, but a lot of those dogs that you get aren't that way. You know,
Right,
and
sure.
I can't determine a dog being defensive by his breed.
No.
I have to have that dog myself.
Right.
And you know, going back in the day when they talk about Fila Brasiliarios and all those dogs like that, where they used to train, on thing they did was tie him to a rope, beat him over the head with a stick, and all of a sudden he didn't fight him again. That was old school training, but
They really have that. That's really how they train them. Yeah, I just want everybody to know Tony ain't making this up.
and so that's how they taught the dogs to protect. You know,
Yeah.
now they didn't trust anybody that walked up. Now, when I say defensive dogs, and what you have to really understand when you deal with a defensive dog is they can be snappy, and you have to monitor that.
Right.
You know, I don't trust any dog that's jumpy or defensive, or you know, if he's shown any kind of fear or anything of that nature, I don't trust that dog around my children.
No.
And that's when I say they don't. When I say they don't make great family pets being defensive. If you've seen the defensive nature of the animal, that's when you should have an issue. That's when you should immediately try to get it trained, immediately try to understand where it's coming from. But just overall, if that dog shows a lot of defense just around the house without being forced into it, be concerned about that. That's something to be concerned about.
Good point.
I mean, because what that leads to, and we hadn't talked about that, but a dog that has a defensive nature, 90% of the time, that leads to a fear biter.
Yep.
And you don't want a fear biter.
The snap and runs.
Right.
Any other questions, Stan?
That was the only one.
You only one? Got that, no?
You got it knocked out.
So we'll knock it out pretty quick.
Well, let's talk about defense some more.
Okay. Let's go.
From your perspective, because what I just said is something that's really concerning to me. And, you know, I have a lot of conversations on the internet with people. I talk to people, I just like to see how people feel.
Right.
And like a family has a dog that has shown that nature.
Mm-hmm.
What is your recommendation to that family? And before you answer that, I say this because I had a conversation with a group of people, and there's some people out there, and forgive me if you're one of these people that are like,
You don't really care.
yeah,
You have to forgive me.
yeah. They feel like if you get a dog, you need to keep that dog for life. I mean, you made a commitment. You're supposed to keep that dog for life.
Very much, thank you.
And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I want to get your opinion on it.
Should you keep a dog for life?
Well, if it can't be fixed, or if it just doesn't meet your needs or match your family.
It can't be fixed, and Tony, everybody knows my dogs are my family.
Right.
Period. I mean, they mean as much to me as most people's kids mean.
Right.
But I know the bottom. But I can get my dogs to that point. If you can't get your dogs to that point, and it does not meet your needs, and especially if it's a defensive dog,
Right.
who's going to be snappy, this dog's unpredictable.
Right.
You don't know who the hell he's going to bite.
Right. But you're saying that from the perspective of a man. You're a master trainer,
Yeah,
and so you can.
I can patch him up.
Let me say it like this, people, and I'm gonna be honest with you. And this is something that was taught to me by a dog trainer, my mentor.
Okay.
It started me, and this is something that I know you experienced. he said to me, Anthony, he said, you can bring me your silly dog, which whatever problems your dog has, you can bring it to me, and I can fix it. As the trainer, I can fix this dog.
Okay.
But when I give you this dog back, and that dog returns to your silly environment, that dog becomes silly again. And I know that as a trainer, you know,
Agreed.
you have issues with that because dogs, you can fix a dog, but when a dog goes back to an environment where the leadership is lacking, or where the dominant litter mate or the alpha is not there, it becomes really silly again.
Exactly.
And so when it's that situation, is that the time for the family to consider rehoming the dog? Because I always felt like rehoming the dog was more humane to the dog and the family than trying to keep the dog that doesn't fit.
I'll go a step further. First, you try to rehome the dog, but I mean, because I work with a lot of rescues, and let's face it, I'm going to call around, I'm going to go on the internet, I'm going to say, hey folks, I got this dog who might bite my kids or my wife or me, I'm not real sure about him, and I'd love to find him another home. You know he ain't going to have his phone ringing off the hook.
Right.
So, there's dogs that, unfortunately, because like you said, the way I always say it, tell people when they bring their dogs here, they're 3 years old and still peeing on the rug.
Mm-hmm.
I can fix that, but what your mentor said, and I agree with him 100%, when you go back to the old neighborhood, you pick up the old habits.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, there's times when you may have to put a dog down if you're dangerous.
Right.
I mean, I don't go that far, but yeah, you're right. You have a responsibility for life, and you should expend every effort and every dollar you got
Right.
to fix your dog. You first should have educated yourself, but that ain't gonna happen, so we'll just shut up.
Right, and that's true. I remember a particular situation about 6 years ago, maybe 5. And I imported a dog, and I imported this dog from, where was this dog from? Germany, West Germany.
Speak up, guys.
Oh, I imported a dog from West Germany about 6 years ago. And this dog just really didn't meet my criteria for a dog. And he was uber destructive, came across to me as a little bit fearful. And I was just like, man, I kept telling my wife, I think I need to rehome this dog. And she's like, no, let's keep him. And every day he tore up something else. And I was on the internet saying, I think I'm gonna rehome the dog. And one lady got on there and said, you're a terrible human being for wanting to rehome that dog.
Yeah.
That dog just needs more attention. You know, he's bored out of his mind. That's why he's like that. And I was like, I spend a lot of time with the dog, and the dog just not coming around. And the best thing for him may be to be with somebody else. You know, he may need to be on the farm. He may need to be at a metal plant or wherever, somebody that has room for him to do whatever it is he wants to do and likes that type of a dog. Right. And so I've always been in the mindset where if a animal, dog, goat, cat, whatever is not matching you or your environment, be open to rehome it.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. I mean, ultimately, and here's my favorite thing is people call me, well, we're moving and we can't take the dogs. And I've always wanted to. I haven't done this, but one of these days somebody will catch me in the right frame of mind. I always say, well, okay, can you not find a place where you can take your dog with you? No. Not a places where, gosh, are they going to let you take your kids? Why are you moving to a place that doesn't allow dogs when you got a dog? Would you move to a place that doesn't allow kids and just give your kids away? I mean, and here's another one. I'm just going to say this one. I haven't said this, but now I'm getting on my high horse here. It's a sign of your immaturity and irresponsibility when you can't keep an animal that you raise. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. You're just an irresponsible, immature person. They're what we used to call in the old days, up in the Texas Panhandle. You would be what we would term a brat. I said, there you go. Got it, Philip. Thank you, everybody.
Let me ask you this. Back on the drive, because we kind of departed there for a second. Okay, when we talk about drives, and we talk about prey drive, we talk about hunt drive. Well, we talk about prey and defense. But we've heard people say hunt drive, right?
Oh yeah, hell yeah, heck yeah.
Have you heard people say toy drive?
Oh yeah.
Play
I
drive?
forgot about it. Toy drive, yeah.
Play drive.
Play drive.
And not do
4-wheel drive.
4-wheel drive. Now, let me ask you this: is that when are these legitimate drives, or are they just renaming another drive?
they're not even renaming it another drive. They don't know how to describe what's going on. Well, your dog's got toy drive because he's chasing the ball. No, it's play drive.
Right.
You know, he's got food drive because look at him. He worked really good for food. No, he's hungry. You know, it's Stan knows this is one of my favorite things about people who write on the internet. This is an old saying for sailors and knot tiers. If you don't know how to tie a knot, tie a lot, right? So people who don't know a subject that they're trying to make like they know about, they just say a lot. So what these people who want to be dog trainers do is come up with toy drive, Sunday drive, you know, all these. They have nothing to do with a drive, but these people, what a dog wants automatically has become a drive,
One drive, yeah.
and that's how you train them.
I'm gonna tell you a story about one trainer.
Okay.
Won't mention any names,
Don't mention any names.
but the way that
She whispered to me later.
and he's on your Facebook page.
Oh lordy, oh
He's a friend of
definitely.
yours. He was friend of Stan.
Go
I'm not gonna name any names.
He's just trying to learn something for you.
But the way he trains the dog is he'll take the dogs and he won't feed them. Now, the only food that the dog can get is during the training session. And that's how he trains the dog. So no, it's not a drive, it's hunger, just like you said.
Yeah. Oh, I let you know, I don't several that away.
Yeah. And
And folks, everyone who's ever come here, walk out and say, I think my dog gained weight while he's here, so I just wanna make that clear.
right. Oh yeah, now Butch, they still feed the heck out your dog. Yeah. They do real good here. But I'm not gonna mention names, but
No.
and it's not Butch or Stan, it's
It's Jamil.
it's somebody in a total other state. It's hilarious though.
Oh, I think I just figured out who it
Yes.
is.
No, I sent a friend to this particular guy. And then the guy went, man, hell no, I'm not leaving my dog out there. He's gonna feed the dog. I was like, man, okay. Yeah.
We can do a whole 2-hour series on trainers that don't feed dogs.
Yeah, is it rampant?
Oh Lord, yeah.
Okay.
Especially, I'm gonna go ahead and say this one. We're gonna wrap this up. 'Cause I'm sure we're getting tired of hearing me and Tony jaw jacking, but especially amongst. Get ready, I'm making some memories here, Stanley. Stanley tries to keep you politically correct.
Sometimes.
Especially among ring trainers. Ring sport trainers love to not feed the dog a cotton picking thing. And it's not, if you're just feeding them at training time, that's great. I'm fine with that. But feed them enough so they don't get losing weight and get hungry and go skinny, you know. So when they're working for food, they ain't learning much except that's the only way I get something to eat. And then when you get them back, you gotta get food every time you know, rush through
Drop the
life.
dog off at 60 pounds, get the dog back at 30 pounds. I've seen it.
Oh yeah.
I've seen some stuff.
And I would say one of the things, and this is a pet peeve of mine, defense of the boarding trainer, boarding kennels. This happened to me once here when I first opened this place. I've never done boarding before. This happened to me. I did this as a novice rookie. When you see the picture of that big stand, you see it. Can you shoot up there on that big Great Dane?
Mick.
Mick, our best buddy in the world, and up in the Texas Panhandle about 87, 97 years ago. And I for something came up, and I had to take off, and I had to put Mick in a boarding kennel. And he lost. I mean, I went to pick him up. I was gone for like 2 or 3 weeks. When I went to pick him up, he was skin and bones. And I was so mad when they brought that dog out, and I jumped on this guy's case. I screamed at him. I hollered at him. I'm not saying I was really rude, but they did call the police, and I got escorted out.
Right.
So I do know when I came here and got a boarding kennel, then I found out when you board your dog, folks, if you haven't socialized that dog, if he's not confident, and you take him to a strange situation, he's 5 years old, never been boarded. That was the case with Nick, was about 4, I think. There's dogs that just get scared and don't eat. So
Right.
don't necessarily jump on the people that are boarding their dogs. I'm not talking about trainers, that's a whole other deal.
Right.
But I just wanted to say a word
That's
for
a
the
good
board.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a valid point.
So, if any of you guys got some more questions, or if you got any more topics, you know we're always looking for topics. Tony's especially always looking for topics. So, shoot them to us. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope a lot of people get to watch it. And more than anything else, I hope you got something valuable you can take
I
home.
hope you got something out of it. I mean, at least you know what the basics are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And next time we'll make sure our mics don't die.
We said, get out there and play your dog. Remember, folks, Stan,
If you ain't having fun,
you ain't training dogs.
yes sir.